Pete Woods here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1121 entitled The Ebb and Flow of the Ages. So, no cover story this week because One Piece is on the cover of Jump. And it's a beautiful cover. Love it. It's celebrating the 27th anniversary of One Piece. Luffy's looking fly. He's got his sunglasses. He looks great. He's got this orange and black suit. All these adornments on the suit. Got the straw hat tie clip. He looks great. He looks great. Got Nami, Chopper, and Usopp in the back. Usopp looking clean in his purple getup. Nami sporting a similar dress to how she wore in Whole Cake Island, the red one. Looks fantastic. Happy 27th anniversary, One Piece. I will say this, there is a break next week, but then the following week, there won't be a break, but then the week after that, there will be a break. So it goes this chapter, break, 1122, and then a break. So that's how it is. And we are treated to a color spread of Nami, which I think this pairs well with the one that we got of Robin a few weeks ago, I believe. The one where she's playing chess. This is cool because this is a fun summertime one. Nami is looking very hot, superimposed over everyone, and all the other Straw Hats are miniaturized, as they were in a couple of color spreads before where Nami's gigantic. And what's funny too is Oda's art habits rear their head again, as I like how Jinbei's head is just popping out between her thigh and arm, so he doesn't have to draw that intricate robe that Jinbei always wears. It's so funny that the pun about Jinbei is that he's a Jinbei, a whale shark, wearing a Jinbei, which is a robe. I find that very funny because Oda never seems to want to draw the robe. I just find that very interesting every time, especially in these color spreads. If there's a way to avoid drawing Jinbei, Oda often takes it, I find. And that's just an observation from me. I like Frankie over here between her legs. And he's riding this like weird chicken thing with this spiked neck brace. It looks like a big pool toy. Very cool, very fun. I like how Robin's in the crux of her arm with some ice cream along with Chopper. That's cute. This is a very risque outfit, but I love it. Always put best girl first. I agree with that sentimentality. The marker work is immaculate, by the way. I love the marker work. It is incredible. And I like how she's holding the ice cream that Luffy is also on. Very cool. Very neat. Great color spread. But moving into the chapter, Saturn, as we left off in 1120, was perched on the giant ship. The giants are batting him back. And this reminds me, I'll just cut right to the chase. Someone asked me a while ago, last week, if I had any thoughts on what would happen in 1121 regarding Saturn. And I had said, and shout out to the person who left this comment, I'll put it up on screen. And I had said, I think Bonnie's going to go back into Gear 5th and hit Saturn in the face along with Luffy in a big team attack. And my golly, that's exactly what happened. Because as Saturn goes off to the offensive, Luffy and the giants bat back his poisonous legs. Bonnie gets back into Gear 5th. The message goes as Vegapunk is rearing up to inspire everyone again to search for the One Piece. But as he's doing that, and we'll get back to that face punching in a minute, but as he's doing that, there are some very interesting shots I would just like to go over. So he says, we know the weapons technology that sank the world's continents is still in use. That power is out there. And as he says that, we get a shot of Shirahoshi, who is Poseidon. We get a shot of Nefertiti D. Vivi, which is interesting. And then we pan over to Skypiea. And in the Skypiea shot, we see Conus, a Skypiean, Isa, a Shandarian, and then Wiper and the boys in the back, who are also Shandarians. Very interesting. We also see Nala the snake. That could be important, but we're not going to focus on the snake. It's just interesting that we have 2 of 4 winged races in this shot. Plus, Vivi being mentioned alongside Shirahoshi. If you remember, there have been many a theory. If you've been on the internet for any extended amount of time in One Piece spaces, there have been many a theory about Vivi possibly being an ancient weapon. That could be the case based on how she alone is being framed here alongside Shirahoshi, and neither Morgans or Wapol is with her in this moment. I just find that very interesting. Perhaps she is Pluton, because that's the going theory. She's Pluton or Uranus. Based on the shot that we get of Skypiea here, and based on who was the main antagonist of the Skypiea arc, I am more so leaning towards Uranus having something to do with some Sky Race person. Could be NL, very possible, because the Arc Maxim is a very weird vessel when you think about it. It's one of the few flying vessels in One Piece that have the capabilities with the power of NL's Rumble Fruit to destroy an island. He has destroyed a landmass. So I don't know, dog. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about. But moving on, as Vegapunk talks about how certain races of the world were persecuted and slaughtered, we get a flash to Kuma revealing that he was a buccaneer, and how Vegapunk says there's something special about his blood. And then too, as the flashback is going, we get a shot of present day Kuma, whom I think is still alive here, but I've said this many times, he might be on his way out in this chapter based on what happens later, but we'll get to that. Following that, right under the flashback about Kuma revealing himself to be a buccaneer, we have Marco back in Fink's Island reflecting on Whitebeard, talking about Lunarians potentially, because he says back then there was a kingdom of gods up there, talking about the Red Line. Now, I have said this in the past, back when we didn't know exactly what Kuma's race was called, and this comes up in the chapter in which Kuma is sworn in as a warlord. But it's very funny that both Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, and Bartholomew Kuma look the same. I originally called them the Big Chin Tribe, and I made that video when Bonnie first revealed that Kuma was a part of a different people. I said that. I'll link that somewhere around here. But it's just funny to me because they're doing it again, and again, my alert hat is going off, and I'm starting to think that, yeah, Whitebeard most likely was a buccaneer, because the similarities are just too eerie. The face shape looks the same. They got the same sort of chin. There's also a weird hair thing about both of them. You have Whitebeard's big crescent moon mustache, and then you have Kuma's bed head that just happens to form in the shape of bear ears. That's weird. And then if you do put two and two together, there is a real world bear, which is the Asian black bear that's sometimes referred to as a moon bear. And like I said, it's a black bear with a sort of weird white crescent-like shape on its chest. So I don't know, man. Whitebeard is a crescent moon and Kuma is a bear. And I believe Ursa Major and Ursa Minor are constellations. So there are some relations to bears and the stars, or bears and the moon, you could say. But it's interesting that they're both the same size. They both have the same build roughly, and they both have weird things going on with their hair. Whitebeard and his facial hair, Kuma and the hair on his head. Just saying. But moving on. Of course, then we get a shot of King, and King is somewhere, also known as Albert. He's somewhere. We don't know where he is, but he's reflecting on what his men said to him when his race was revealed during the Zoro fight in Wano. That's not a big deal. We kind of know that, but we are at 3 out of the 4 winged races now. We saw Skypeans, we saw Shandurians, and now we have a Lunarian. All we need is a Birkin. I wonder if we're going to see a Birkin in this chapter. Wink, wink. We cut over to Pudding, who's right next to him, and she's reflecting on her childhood and being a 3-Eye Tribe member. We still don't know about them, but that's a thing because, of course, they have a special ability as they can read poneglyphs. We don't know what that entails of or how that ability came about, but that's something to think about. And of course, we know she's in Blackbeard's hostage at the moment. But cutting back, Bonnie goes full Nika and goes on the offensive against Saturn. Saturn retaliates, calls her a fool for copying something she can't comprehend. Luffy says, enough of this garbage, swats those big poisonous legs away. And then, like I've been saying all this time, Bonnie then reflects on the memories given to her by her father, thanks to the powers of the pawpaw fruit. And she just takes in how mercilessly evil Saturn has been towards Kuma, how he's been towards Guinea, and how all of this has been set in motion to ruin her life, where she just wanted to live with her mother and father. During this revelation, Kizaru is on the ground because he has had enough and he has clocked out for the evening. I do not blame him. Sentomaru is badly injured and is also sitting on the ground. I'm glad they didn't kill each other, by the way, because that's just awful. It really is. But all of this crying and all of this misery comes together in a stretched out elephant gun punch, as Saturn can only sit there in awe as he gets stared down by a giant Nika Luffy with hockeyed up hands and a giant hockeyed up fist from Bonnie being revved up. Cutting back to his message, we have Iceberg back in Water 7. That's not important. We see Caesar and Judge arguing. That's not important. We go to Witheria and when we see Harudes, that's important. Do you know what Harudes is? Harudes is a Birkin. I have often thought that he was probably the deity of Burka at some point, because all the deities, as we know, of the sky races, their king, so to speak, don't have wings, including NL. He didn't have wings. So that's very interesting. I think for the first time in forever, I don't think this has ever happened, but every member from every winged race is in one chapter. We have a Skypian, we have several Shandurians, we have a Lunarian, and now we have a Birkin. Isn't that interesting? I wonder what that means. Vegapunk's speech goes on, saying how Roger died 25 years ago and it's been 2 years since Whitebeard's death, and how the passing of legends brings in a new age. And then the liberating Nika punch goes off. Bonnie's perfected elephant gun slams into Saturn in spectacular fashion. She's made of rubber. How did that happen? Yo ho ho, she believed in Nika. Bam! That spider is getting torn up, assisted by several giant Gatling Nika punches from Luffy. My goodness. And I guess, too, you can say this is the first attack Luffy has been involved in which it involves Nika directly. So I don't know what to make about that. That's very interesting. Is he coming around to the idea? Maybe, maybe not, but it's just kind of a funny thing to point out. Moving on, though, Saturn is torn to bits. I mean, torn to bits. There are holes in him. She and he punched him worse than Kuma ever did. He is in bits and pieces, and he is falling into the ocean. Now, funny thing about the ocean in the panel of which we see him falling into is that the ocean isn't ebbing and flowing in these big swelling mounds, right? So it's just regular water. So the water being rubber isn't going to save him here. Saturn is in trouble. He can probably get himself out of it because he can probably teleport out, but I don't know. That is if he's a Dofur user, which we're going to find that out sooner or later. I err on the Occam's razor side of the argument, saying that all the Gorosei are Dofur users. I don't think we're going to introduce a new power system this late in the game. It would make sense that they're older than Dofur classification, and of course, their powers aren't going to be put in any book unless they were put in a version of the Dofur Encyclopedia without their consent or before they got their abilities. That's the only way I can see that there is a text out there classifying what they are actually able to do. So it's up in the air, but that's the only way I can see it. If there's a variant of the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia that talks about Nika, but then also talks about their powers. And then we'll get like proper naming schemes of what they're actually called. So like with him right here, of course, he'd be the spider fruit, mythical model Gyuki. The others, of course, Nostjiro would be a horse fruit. Most likely Mars would be a bird fruit. Don't know about Jupiter. I don't know if he'd be classified as a bug fruit or he is just a worm fruit. I don't know about that one. That's a little weird. Have never had a pig devil fruit, so I don't even know how you would describe Warcree. Pig fruit model Fangji. It's weird we never had a pig fruit before. That's just odd thinking about it. But yeah, no. Saturn falls into the ocean, and there's a very important plot point that I'd like to bring up after we finish the chapter. But moving on, Bonnie and Luffy send Saturn flying into the ocean, and everyone cheers. Here we have the death of Kuma. Kuma has a little smirk on his face. I think that's it. I think that's it right there. I know I've called it before. I've cried wolf before, but narratively, this right here makes the most sense. The villain that has plagued Kuma his entire life and plagued all of his loved ones has been mercilessly beaten to death by his daughter and by his hero. And he got a front row seat to that happening. This is a beautiful occasion for Kuma. Shine on, sir. Shine on. I think that's it, though. This would be the most fitting end for him right here. And that's okay. As that happens, however, the Sunny is crashing down as Brocky and Dory notice it. But Jinbei's out the helm. We're going to be all right. If Jinbei flubs this, though, oh my word, no. Could you imagine? No way, no way, no way. I kid. But Vegapunk continues, saying that people who often seek out the truth are often oppressed, and it's only those who are oppressed are going to be the ones who stand up to find the truth and set things in motion. And then we have a flash to Roger, and he says, "My treasure is yours to find. Everything is right there where I left it." Or, if you're a 4Kids fan, "My treasure is yours for the taking. I left it all in that one place." Very nostalgic. I'm tearing up, actually. Oh my God. It's good, bruh. Nah. This brings back memories, bruh. Back in 2007, watching this stuff on the Fox box, bro, when you have the terrible 4Kids dub. Oh, man. Nah, it's good. It's good. But continuing. Rayleigh is knocked out at the bar because he's drunken himself to sleep. And we get a flash to all the pirate bases of our 4 Yonko, excluding Luffy, of course. The pirate island shown up, Hachinosu, after freshly being cracked by one Monkey D. Garp, because that skull ain't looking too good. But the pirates of the pirate island are itching for the Commodore to come back. So we don't know where Blackbeard is now, which is interesting. We know he's somewhere listening to the message. We don't know where. But the Blackbeard pirates are going to be a very interesting topic in a moment. But first, we see the Red Force, and Shanks too has drunken himself into a stupor. Very funny, especially after spanking Kid and having Brocky and Dory sink his ship with not a care to be found. Very funny. And now we have Emperor Buggy's base, Empty Bluffs Island. And the entire island is in an uproar because they all know Buggy's ties to Roger. And now the fools, Mihawk and Crocodile, are now indebted into this organization, and they will never be in charge. Never, ever, ever, never. I think with these two mean mugging off to the side, which is very uncharacteristic of Mihawk to do. He's usually stone-faced in everything. This is it. They know. They know they're in deep. They know they have no choice. Crocodile's so mad. I love it. That's it, though. Right here is it. Ellipses. They have nothing to say because they know they're in for it. They're going to challenge all of them. That's it. I need you to understand how it is for them. No big plans, no schemes. You're a legit pirate crew now. You listen to this clown now. That's it. People want to say, oh, Mihawk's going to betray Buggy. No, you don't get it. He's in there. He's in there for real. He's going to be Zoro. There goes Zoro and Sanji right there, boys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you think otherwise. There it is right there. There's no escaping it. Moving on, though, the Marines too want to go find the One Piece, but someone reminds them that they need to protect the common people. because you're not pirates. You don't have fun. You have responsibilities. My goodness, the new naval base looks like Mickey D's. That's funny. Anyway, but yeah, as Vegapunk says, there's no stopping this now. Because we have the third exclamation of the One Piece being the theme of the series, the thing that you have to find, which I have to say, bravo to Oda, because after almost 30 years of writing this thing, despite all the turns and curves we have made from going from 17th century technology to cyborgs to genetic mutants to angel people and all this rigmarole, the treasure has remained the most important thing, and that's beautiful. Despite all the fluff, despite all the world building, the treasure is still important, and now it's on a world stage in terms of importance, and that's the best. It's simply the best. It simply is. And as Vegapunk says, the fate of this world will be decided by whomever finds it. And we see our four Yonko: Red Hair Shanks, Monkey D. Luffy, Blackbeard, also known as Marchie D. Teach, and Buggy the Clown. And Buggy is snotting and tearing up because he has the romance of adventure in his heart, baby. It's in there. You can see it in his eyes. I love it. Oh, I'm getting chills, bro. I love Buggy excited. I love Buggy when he's excited. It's great. It's funny, too, that both Buggy and Blackbeard are wearing bandanas and big pirate hats. I find that funny. Whereas Luffy, the man who's actually named after a hat, is not wearing a hat, and neither is Shanks. That's funny. It's funny. It's funny. But under them, we get other little snippets of other important characters. And my goodness, we're up to 3 Shankses, boys. We got the red hair Shanks, we have Figure and Garland, and then we have yet another Shanks, it seems. Yet another Shanks, because we see a man holding a sword that looks like Griffin because it has a cutlass-like shape with that weird handle bit. So yeah, it looks like Griffin, which makes me think, is Griffin like a celestial dragon sword or like a Holy Knight's blade of some sort? Because it's real weird that Figure and Garland, if I recall, also had one. And now this new character, Shanks number 3, also has this. What's also funny is that, if you don't know, in jewelry, the part that your finger goes through on a ring is called a shank. And Shanks served on Roger's crew, right? So, in terms of metals, you have gold, silver, and bronze. And we have gold, Roger, silver's Rayleigh, and copper, Gabon. So we have 3 precious metals that can be made into rings. So it's funny that now we potentially have 3 Shankses to make those rings out of, or 3 Shanks that could be made of those precious metals, I should say. So perhaps, with that being said, Golden Age Shanks could be our Shanks, Silver Age Shanks could be this new Shanks, and then Bronze Age Shanks, when things are starting to kick off, could be Figure and Garland. That's a little tiny theory. Probably gonna put that in another video, but I just wanted to bring that up. Other characters that we see in this collage are Emu. We have Monkey D. Dragon, who is looking east again, as he's known to do. We have Desk Chan, also known as Akinu, also known as Sakazuki, chomping on his cigar as he's wont to do. We have Kuzan, which is weird, the 10th Titanic captain of the Blackbeard Pirates. Weird that he would be here. We have Kobe, of course, because Kobe has replaced Smoker as an important character as he's not in his collage. Therefore, he does not matter, and I will not hear any retorting arguments to the matter, because, come on, bro. Come on. If you were important, you'd be here, but you ain't. I don't know what to tell you, bro. If he was important, if he was Luffy's Monkey D. Garp, he'd be here. But he ain't. It's Kobe. As we started is how we shall end. We started with Kobe, we're ending with Kobe. Smoker don't matter. I'm sorry, brothers. That's how it is. And then we see Sabo. I love that we see Sabo because I am rooting for him to replace Dragon because, ooh-wee, he is becoming bigger than Dragon by the second. Now, going back to that Blackbeard stuff I promised you. You know what's really funny about Saturn? He was touched by Katharina Devon. Now, Katharina Devon has the Dog Fruit Model 9-tailed Fox, or QB. And we know from her power debut that she can copy people. She can copy very, very well. Unlike Mr. 2 or the Garb Fruit, she's not making weird approximations. She's copying people for real. She can't copy abilities, but she can copy clothing and physical attributes. So the entire appearance. And it's very interesting that we get the first example of this with Absalom, someone who has went under many cosmic surgery and has turned himself into a weird lion man, right? So she copied all of that plus what he was wearing. So that shows you that her power is above Mr. 2's or Kinemon's garb fruit, right? Funny thing about Mr. 2, Mr. 2 can only copy the body, and he was only limited to what he touched. What do I mean by this? Well, Mr. 2 copied several members of the Straw Hat crew, one of them being Chopper. And no one talks about this. Chopper's the weird one because he technically copied an animal. Chopper's a gray area because he's technically a animal human because he's a reindeer that ate the human fruit. So technically, Bon Clay copied a person, but also copied an animal. And in doing that, he only copied the form that Chopper was in at the time, which was his hybrid state, right? With that being said, what if in Katharina Devon copying Saturn, what if it's a real good deep fake? What do I mean by that? What if, say, that Blackbeard wants a certain individual from Egghead Island, namely York? What if, seeing as how Saturn is out of the picture, Katharina Devon poses as Saturn in his normal state and convinces York to go with her? What I mean by this is, what if when Katharina Devon copies someone, she really copies someone, meaning that even though she touched Saturn in his hybrid state, she copied all of him, meaning that even though she doesn't have any of his abilities, she could have how his hybrid state looks, how supposedly his full beast form looks, and how his regular form looks. Now, if we want to take this even a step deeper, what if it's a deep fake in which she gets a copy of all of Saturn's memories? What if the dog fruit model 9-tailed fox allows you to copy a person wholesale? Because it's really weird that she knew how to act like Absalom to give Moria false hope during her power debut. So maybe she knew that Absalom was a pervert and liked to be in the company of a lot of women. Maybe she knew that, and that was all a plot. Maybe. I don't know. But if that's true, that's going to make her using Saturn's visage going forward very important, especially if Saturn is dead. Because seeing as how he was the first one to reveal himself and the first one to show us all his powers, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not dead, he's out of commission. He's going to be out of commission for a very long time. Because so far, he looks like he's gotten it the worst, especially seeing as how he's about to fall into the ocean in bits and pieces. Don't know, but I find that fascinating. So, if Katharina Devon's power is as good as I think it is, Blackbeard is a serious threat because her power could be the best cloning ability in the series. And I wouldn't really doubt it because so far, there are no downsides because she didn't have to touch a particular side of a person's face and then touch her own face. She doesn't have to do any of that. All she did was touch Saturn's spider leg. And if it's that simple, we are in for some very interesting plots moving forward, I gotta tell you. But with that being said, this was an excellent chapter, a great chapter, but I also think this is probably the end of Vegapunk's message because I don't know what else could be said. But that being said, thank you for watching and giving me your thoughts. I will provide you with content as I always do during break weeks. But yeah, great chapter, excellent chapter.